Welcome everyone to our Adobe Photoshop Masterclass tutorial. Very much looking forward to today. Once again, an incredible deluge of questions, topics and so on have come our way. As you'll see in a second, I've tried to divide them into two categories. The questions that echo on from recent tutorials, some of the ideas, thoughts and concerns that have bounced through to today, and then a whole plethora coming from all sorts of sources. Let's call them fundamentals, underlying structural elements, and without which these critical distinctions, understandings, applications, we're rudderless in a sense, pressing buttons, moving sliders, as I'll demonstrate shortly, and not really understanding what's going on. And all of these fundamentals, these first principles, these underlying structures, foundations, feed back into our continuing topic from recent weeks. Let me show you those dot points so I can talk more directly to them. So this is how I've organized these topics for today. The first is the echo, the reverberation from recent weeks, and then a whole series of follow-up questions. These are the fundamentals. These are the underlying principles that if we build them into our knowledge, let alone the iteration of that knowledge, the distribution of it, the creation of our images, we're on such solid ground. But all of these topics beg again the question that we begin with. And it's following on from this idea. If in fact the handmade, the bespoke, is going to increase in value as we avalanche into this agentic AI age, the simplicity of the handmade in the most time-honoured sense, if that's going to increase in value as we're hypothesizing in recent weeks, therefore from that follows this idea that abundant skills, both physical and meta skills, will be needed. But hang on, Les, how do you reconcile that with all of the actions and scripts that you provide, for example, in the Photoshop Masterclass, which in a sense replace us being able to create these effects and outcomes ourselves? So I need to restate the underlying premise, demonstrate a few things, and then move on to these quite foundational concerns. And then with super glue, join all the bits together that we already know by filling in the gaps. But as I said, all of these considerations feed back into skills needed to handmake, handcraft, through which we feel pride and all sorts of other overcoming considerations that we value above and beyond anything else. Now, this distinction begs the question of sentience versus consciousness, a debate that's gone on for millennia. But the point being that what we encapsulate in our ecosystem, our bubble, our consciousness, the values that we value, if they are going to increase in value in the age of agentic AI, how do we go about this? All right, let's begin at the beginning. And I'm going to break it into the two components that are staring us in the face: the development and refinement of meta and physical practical skills, their application, and the automation I provide and have for decades in the scripts and actions in applications like Photoshop, which can run such routines on our behalf. And doesn't that actually contradict this idea of the handmade? Because I'm the one making the handmade for you. That's the implication. So here we are in Lightroom. Snapshot from the studio balcony. It's a raw file. And in the Lightroom's development module, I've got a massive number of tools. And right down the bottom is calibration. And remember, this is Lightroom. This is railroad tracks. You can't reorganize or rename or reposition tools here, there, or whatnot. Now, what on earth is calibration doing? We've got tinting of shadows, and this is the tint axis, not the white balance axis. And then we've got red primary, hue, the color of the color, and its intensity, the green, and the blue primary, for example. I can be doing this, and I can be doing things like that, and changing their intensity, and so on. But what on earth is going on? And what is it doing? At the bottom of my list of tools. Now, let's be really clear about this. The problem with these tools and our development of meta, not just practical skills, is that they don't teach us the fundamentals. This tool called calibration in our raw processor, these adjustments precede everything else. This is how initially our raw file is interpreted. which we then act on with these other tools here. It's way down the bottom. So I'm going to ingest that into 3D LUT Creator to illustrate other ways of thinking and understanding meta, but also practical skills. There's our candidate, our original processed RGB file. Now, if we look at the workflow in 3D LUT Creator, we begin with channels, even before we get to the mighty A, B, and CL grids, let alone the special curves and everything else. So let's go to channels, the mapping of my primaries. That is what red means, that is what green, and that is what blue means by default. But of course, I can change the hue and the saturation. Look how interactive it is and how easily I'm able to see the meta skills, what is happening while I'm processing my image before I proceed to the tonal composition, and then with our HSPs and LABs and other color models, remapping individual colors or groups of colors, brightnesses and so on to where we want them to be. And look at where 3D LUT Creator places us, not at the end of the workflow, but at the very start of our workflow where it actually belongs and precedes everything else. And because we're working effectively, same outcomes, except one is pictorially visual, but also conceptually applied through this development of meta skills, this understanding. Even the color models I'm then working with in the grids and special curves, all of these different color models have no effect on the RGB channels because this precedes it, literally, visually, metaphysically, and so on. So that's a quick and simple example of what we say over and over again. It's all about the company you keep. And what the company you keep, the words you read, the movies you watch, the music you listen to, the conversations with friends and colleagues and so forth. And it's how we then embed ourselves, what we know, do, and understand within a discourse, something that is greater than oneself. And it's just a simple example of how, especially with Adobe products, but they're not alone by any means, how easy it is to be stranded in this, we used to call them bubbles, didn't we, of not so much misinformation, but lack of information, lack of knowledge, let alone its application. And there's endless sliders and whatnot, which I will show you in answering some of these other questions, doing the same damn thing, which we think massively overcomplicates what really is a very simple process. Editing of the color, the hue, the saturation, the intensity, the tonal curve, how we get from black to white, both globally and locally. It's not incredibly difficult. Indeed, learning from as to how to render thoughts, feelings, ideas, and cares and concerns into pictorial justice. Yeah, the company you keep is really important as it's ever been. But if we buy this idea of the handmade becoming really important, hopefully that's what we're betting on, that's what we're hoping for in this avalanche of an agentic AI age, as I was saying, then how we acquire those skills quickly, surely, confidently, is obviously going to be of immense importance. The good news is programs like Photoshop do allow you to develop those skills, but you've got to add other things to them, bigger than the Adobe bubble, because they don't teach you this from within. To try and wrap up this initial question, what is it about all these automations, scripts, actions that you provide? Doesn't that work against the handmade? Because you're doing all these amazing things to your images just by clicking another button. But let's also ground that answer by revisiting the end of the last tutorial with this simple observation, iteration after iteration, as physical objects, because then all of our senses come into play to interact and evaluate the physical photograph as a print. This slows us to the pace of the process. And through contemplation, while print is being made, while we sit in wonder in front of the object, we look longer and harder to an extent beyond the screen swipe attitude to see what's really there and discover what truly matters to us, the prioritizing of subjectivity. It's a preemptive underpinning of what we're doing. Now, let's answer that with this in mind, heading towards such revelations. Let's jump into Photoshop and look at a couple of these actions, automations, and explain their intent and how we hope you work with them. For example, something as simple as reattaching highlights. Oh, suddenly the picture is three-dimensional. No, it's not. It's flat, two-dimensional on a screen, but suddenly, from our Understanding Pictures workshop, this principle of unity, bringing together in a harmonious way. How confident, how assertive, how three-dimensional, but that doesn't teach you how to do that yourself. So the idea is, despite one's relative inexperience, to quickly create effects that you can then adjudicate and not only reverse engineer, but in your action sets and scripts embolden your own pictorial styles to achieve your own outcomes quickly, to then extend the time given to contemplation, as I say. Okay, what about a luminosity curve? Now, what's going on here? I've extracted the luminosity from the image, the tonal composition, and I've attached a curve to it, the RGB curve. And this is to enable points on a curve to remain locked down and unchanged while you're moving other points, which of course does not happen in Photoshop. We go over and over this in the workshop and demonstrate it backwards and forwards. But here is a solution straight away. Let's get our interactive tool. I don't want those shadow values to change, but I want to, let's say, brighten up those pixels. And as I move this, those shadow values aren't changing. But hang on, are you sure they aren't moving? You can put some sample points there. I could do it numerically, but why don't we just duplicate that curve? And I turn this on. Look at the profound change. And look at the change in hue. Look at the change in saturation. Look at the change in meaning. That luminosity curve stops that happening. It fixes it. This solves a major problem in editing tonal composition independently of the color composition in a program as compromised as Photoshop. But maybe that's all you need to get on with the meaning emboldened within your processing. And I'm using a portrait because we can so easily bestow emotionality into our reading of it without having to anthropomorphize the sentience of trees or mountains or what have you. But you can also want to know more and go back into the workshop notes and videos and sessions and look at how easy it is to extract the tonal composition from the image. And that's what half of this masterclass is dedicated to, fixing the broken bits so that we can get on with the good bits. To round off that answer, all of those scripts and actions are there to immediately help someone somewhat inexperienced make profound pictorial difference to their images, that they can then exercise their aesthetic and other judgments way above I like or I don't like. But then hopefully once they emboldened their creativity with such profound advantages, opportunities and outcomes, then through inquisitiveness and wanting more control than we provide in the automation, begin reverse engineering, pulling them to bits and so on, in order to tweak them, reinvent them, innovate them into your own. And that is the sequence that we would hope would then, iteration after iteration, as we say, lead you into these higher resolutions, both meta but also in the physical world, and how your images return to that world as objects in their own right. Now, that, of course, begs all these following questions, these fundamentals and these foundations, underlying all of the above, that it's going to be an absolute delight to now roll up our sleeves and begin dealing with them. But I should preface this with an observation. If we go to our webpage under workshops, and there's our masterclass. If we go down to Introduction to Digital Photography, no bookings buttons, okay. We go to the web page, to resources, and yes, we haven't taught this for 10 years. Here is the workshop's extensive resources downloaded from the website. Now I'm showing you this because in here are answers to just about all of the questions that are now coming up, the underlying fundamentals. But the important point is there's no paywall hiding the answers I'm now going to showcase through not just meta, but also physical, practical demonstrations. These fundamental pillars of understanding, knowledge, theory, and fact as best we can to fill the gaps in with that super glue of intelligence and stitch this together in support of one's creativity. So let's begin at the beginning with how would you describe an optimized Adobe post-capture workflow? How do you go about this? How do you define optimized? What does that mean for you? And